to actually break through to them. Even if it's not their direct behavior, when they realize that what they did had an indirect effect by having other people, even if it was other people acting that way, it puts them on notice. So one of the things that we want to do by better registering everyone's sort of place of living by their commuter standing next year is actually start the year in a way we've never done before, and that's to have some type of town hall, ideally with either the mayor or any of you all would be welcome, where we can actually share and relate these types of experiences to people so that they understand that they are living next to people that have to wake up at 4 a.m, that they might have a 2-year-old that they are trying to put to sleep, that there are real life consequences to their actions. And so that they can actually at least be, and also we can provide them better strategies about how to be a good neighbor. Have you ever walked across the street and introduced yourself? No? How about why don't you start there? Why don't you exchange numbers so that you can contact one another? It's little things like that, and I think that's is just as equally a good advice for anyone who lives in town as well. But we're going to take what we can out of the gates and starting to work with students, and that way, if we do that, and we keep these lines open, then we're going to be able to identify these things as they pop up.
And regarding the timeliness, and I'll just finish on this end, and Commissioner Sweeney, I'll come to you. Commissioner Buckman, I'll go to you. Regarding the timeliness piece is, once we have that 911 piece in place, when it's like a significant threshold that's been crossed, okay, then we have the option to follow up with the university. But public safety is paramount, and that's why I say we can't put it into our hands necessarily to decide whether that's a 21-year-old or not, drinking in the backyard or not. But if it's a drunken disorderly, or if it's a noise violation, or if it's so disruptive to the quality of life that we're expecting, then it's appropriate to call 911. But the follow-up, the added layer is certainly absolutely call, please call the university, and kind of go to that level. So, Commissioner Sweeney, I'll be quiet. Your turn.
Hopefully we won't have any bad things happen this year, but if you do have any bad things happen with any students, it'd be nice maybe if those students would do community service in our town. Maybe they won't be so negative.
That's a good idea.
That would be one of the things that they have to paint the pool building, or clean the park, or plant trees, or whatever. I mean, they have to do something.
Might start by having them wash the urine off the sidewalk, but
well, they can do that
how about
too.
that?
Yeah.
But it would be nice, 'cause that way they would give back to their community,
Sure.
the community that they're in.
Commissioner Buckman.
I've called the security office a couple of times, and the response I get is, it's off campus, we can't do anything. But if they could take an address or get information and then say, call the police.
You
that
can
would be
call me.
helpful. Well, the security office is
Right.
there 24 hours and they answer the phone.
True.
And then somebody in the community made mention, why don't we have a community meet and greet of the kids that are off campus with residents of the town and make them feel welcome so they feel part of the community? Just an idea. Someone else brought that up. I don't know the details on that.
Deputy, let me invite you forward to the dais, if you would. Mr. McVeary and Mr. Green, thank you kindly.
I'm going to address a few things. Why we're going to call 911 instead of calling them out directly. One, every time you dial 911, a case number is generated.
Okay.
With that case number, it gives the caller's information and address. The dispatcher actually puts notes on the card of where the incident is occurring. That information is now documented with the sheriff's office. That can then be shared with the mount.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay.
Secondly, not every time that a deputy goes out to a noise complaint or a party is a physical report, meaning we're going to sit down behind a computer and type out a report. I'm going to tell you, that's more than likely not going to happen. But Deputy Whitehouse and I will speak with the deputies who work in this area to see if they can get some type of narrative documented for that incident. Okay, I can't promise you that. Okay, that way you will have a documentation of what was recorded that night. So you'll have at least a foundation of something to work off of. On the other side of that, and I think Mr. Sweeney kind of addressed it. If it's possible, when you have a Mount student living off campus, and it's not that we're going to target that house or whatever, but at least knowing who the tenants or who is renting that property, at least when we go to that house, we can say John Smith, and we can actually talk to the renter of that property instead of 25 other students who have no really dog in the fight, if you will, because it's the renter who is going to deal with you, not his friend or his friend's friend. So if that's possible, if we as the community deputy, I believe that this is something that we all need to work together to solve. I can agree with his comments, the fact that there are very, very well-behaved Mount St. Mary students in this community. Then we have the other side of the pendulum. So when you have these meetings, if you could let us know, Deputy Whitehouse and I will do our best to be at those meetings so we can address those students and just to educate them about where we're coming from. And when we go to a party, we go to those calls, you have 25, 30, 40, 50 students, and you have 3 deputies. Our number one priority for law enforcement is our safety, okay? We're not going in to 50 students, three deputies. This isn't the Wild Wild West. We're not doing it, okay? Unless there's a safety issue that we need to address, okay? I'm willing to answer any questions anybody has about this. I can tell you personally that I've responded to some parties in town and also outside town. My first thing, I'm going to go back. My first thing I always say is, who rents this property? The lacrosse team was one of them. I talked to one young man, went up there and I said, turn it down, stay inside, or we're done. 30 minutes later, I was back. I said, we're done. We tried. He's like, not a problem. I said, I stood out there, got some other units to come, and everybody found someone who wasn't drinking, and they found their way home. Very respectful. So a conversation having with these students, these adults, I keep calling them students, but they're adults. They're 18 years old. I think that's where it starts, having that conversation. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize, I misspoke. So 911.
No.
So 911 does generate a record at least.
Yes, it
But
generates
I-
a case number.
I do, but the case number is a record.
Yes, correct.
I don't mean. I don't
No,
mean
that's
necessarily
fine.
a report, but I want one more question though, just to make sure. Dialing 911 is the best option and not the non-emergency number.
You get to the same. You get
It's
to
the same effect.
It's the same effect.
Okay, I just wanted to
You're
clarify
going to answer.
that.
You're going to
Okay.
answer the questions that the dispatchers have to ask, but you get to the dispatch. Either
There's
one.
the stigma. If I dial 911 and someone's having a heart attack down the road, it feels like 911's for those emergencies where someone's life is at risk.
I understand that. But remembering 3 numbers is a lot easier than remembering
Okay.
10.
Okay.
That's why I tell people, like, should I dial the non-emergency number? If all you can remember is to dial 3 numbers, I'm okay with that. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
anything else?
Great. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you.
Okay,
And thank
so
you guys for coming.
truly. All right. At this time, we're going to move to close public comments. You are welcome to stay for a really important long meeting, or you can go have your lives back. But thank you all, most importantly, for coming in, sharing your concerns. I hope we feel we have a direction to move in. All of our phone numbers, all of our email addresses are on Channel 99 and the town website. Please feel free to contact us, like phone call or email, and we're here for you, okay? We are at your behest, so let us know, and we'll move forward on things. If you have a question, please come forward, and that'd be great.
Cable, so we don't get 99.
Okay, if you were to look at the town website, Emmitsburg MD, or here, I can give you the number right now. Just the phone number, and I got a little card from the town of Emmitsburg.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. No problem. Thank you.
That's on the card I gave you also.
Here you go.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't pull my cell out for meetings, but I'll give that to you later if you want, if you call me in for that. Okay, great, thank you.
Everybody keep putting on the cable.
Uh-huh.
All right. Any further comments from the board at this time? No? Mr. Mayor, any further comments? No. Okay. Very good. We now turn to item H, administrative business. Thank you all again very much for coming in. We're looking at the issue related to the new town planner,
Yeah, the mayor just walked.
and the mayor stepped off the floor. So
I'll go. It's,
Can we go with-
it's the mayor's recommendation, but
terrific. Okay.
I can at least do the background for it.
I'm afraid I didn't hear you.
I think she's going to give you the background to it.
Okay, very good. But something from staff also? No? We're good? Okay. All right.
Okay, so we advertise for the planner position on various online sites, including the town's website, MML.
Mr. Green, I hate to be your curmudgeon, but if I could ask you to step off the floor, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Wetzel, again, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Don't mean to be rude. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we advertise the planner's position on various online sites, including our website, MML's website, and 2 local professional organizations for planners in Maryland and Pennsylvania, also the Frederick County Workforce Services and Indeed. These online postings ran for approximately 1 month. From all our postings, we received 38 candidates.
Wow.
Our HR consultant presented 6 candidates who met the minimum qualifications for the position. Because unfortunately, the majority of the candidates that submitted were not nearly qualified. They didn't possess any of the qualifications of a planner. Of the 6, the mayor and I selected 3 for interviews. About 10% got an interview. All 3 had the qualifications that we liked. However, the one candidate that the mayor is recommending, he had the best qualifications in line with the position's required knowledge, skills, and abilities. And he also possessed the most current and relevant experience of the 3 candidates. He would be available to start at the beginning of July, which would give us about 3.5 weeks of overlap with our current town planner, which was something we were looking for. So the mayor is recommending the hiring of a gentleman. I gave you kind of a synopsis, and this is just a brief overview of his resume. The mayor recommends the hiring of Zachary R. Goulden, Guldn, for the town planner's position. He has a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's degree in public administration. He is currently the township manager, open records officer, treasurer, and zoning officer for Freedom Township. Freedom Township is an extremely small township just north of the state line. The position is very part-time, only requiring some evenings and weekends. His reference from them was fantastic. Just some of the highlights: he currently oversees matters relating to zoning, code enforcement, and enforcement of ordinances, resolutions, etc. He maintains the township's comprehensive plan and zoning map, and he reviews and comments on all applications, plans, and drawings submitted to the township. He's also currently the town planner for Upper Allen Township, which is much larger than the town of Emmitsburg. He, some of the highlights: he reviews and processes all subdivision, land development, conditional use, zoning text amendment, and zoning map amendment applications. He maintains their comprehensive plan and zoning map. He reviews all building and zoning permit applications. He supervises all planning commission activities and conducts code enforcement. He has some GIS and grant writing experience.
Okay, quick question. Are you looking for a vote from the board to accept this recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. We'll turn to the board. I'm sorry.
His start date would be July 9th of 2018 at a grade 11, step 1, which is a salaried position. It's $2,127 paid biweekly, or annually it's $55,303.88. His additional references were checked, and they were all very favorable, very good.
Terrific. Okay. Are there any questions from the board related to this documentation or the information we've just received? Commissioner.
For me, it's very important that we have someone who also has a gentle touch talking with people, not that they're not going to enforce the code, but that they're approachable. Did you get any feedback on his, how he talks with the public?
Well, one of his suggestions was to be able to go door to door when there are code enforcement and permitting questions and put a face to the name. So I don't see that there would be a problem with that. Again, I said all his references were all very favorable.
Okay.
When you check references, they're not, most places don't give you much information to begin with, but they were favorable.
Okay. Commissioner Ritz, anything?
Is he currently the planner of in Pennsylvania, Upper Allen Township?
Yes.
So obviously, if we approve, then is he leaving that position?
Yes.
Is he going to maintain that? As
No, the planner position, he would resign
Okay.
from.
Mr. Sweeney, any questions?
No.
Mr. Blanchard? Do we have a sense of longevity in these positions?
Looks like he just started as the township manager, and the Upper Allen Township position looks like it's been about a year and a half.
Okay. Okay.
Why would he like to be in Emmitsburg?
I don't have my notes from the interview, but as I remember, he recall from his interview, he lives in Gettysburg. He's very familiar with the town. Of all the candidates, he did his research of our website, our historical information. He apparently read almost our entire code book, which is more than probably most of us have done. But he has a lot of interest in the town of Emmitsburg, and he's familiar with the town.
Is the salary currently in the budget that we just are approved?
Yes.
We did have another position from, that wasn't planner, that was was an engineer?
Code enforcement, maybe?
Code enforcement? No. What was the other man?
A
The
terminated
one we had terminated.
The zoning technician.
Zoning technician. Are we keeping him on the book, or keeping that on the books, or is that going to
We don't have that position but in the budget, but it's still a current position with the town. We haven't eliminated that position. We haven't seen a need for that position as of yet.
We used to acquire funds for the planner. Are we getting any funds from the county for the planner? We used to get funds.
We haven't gotten funds from the county in a very long time.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to cover all the bases.
The only concern I have related to this is not that this gentleman is a Pennsylvanian per se, but I don't want us to lose our emphasis that ours is a Maryland township.
Correct.
And I don't want to lose sight of that, in that, yes, PA is our neighbor and we love our neighbor, but we want to make a priority, focusing our energy and our efforts through MML and our municipalities and our relations with Annapolis
Right.
and the Frederick City and Frederick County government.
He is fully aware of that. That was a question that I asked him.
Terrific.
And then to let you know, we had, of all the candidates we interviewed, none of the qualified candidates were Maryland residents.
Interesting.
So, but it was a specific question I asked him. I understand you're familiar with Pennsylvania, we are Maryland, and he's fully aware of that and fully gung-ho to jump in and learn everything that he needs to learn. We'll be willing to send him to MML and training.
Great.
I think he is a very good candidate, and he'd be a good fit for our office.
Great. Okay. All right. Therefore, is there a motion to accept the recommendation by the mayor as presented by the town planner?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation from the mayor for the town planner position.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second it.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Blanchard. It has been seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. As this is an administrative business item, there is room for discussion. Is there any further discussion on this item?
A favor,
Careful.
a question.
Sir.
If approved this evening, is there any way that Mr. Golden could attend our meeting?
In
Early
July?
Would like to meet him.
Yes, he's already, I believe there's some discussion of moving our meeting to a later date, and if that is the later date is approved, yes, he will be here for that meeting. He had offered to come to tonight's meeting. I did not feel that it was appropriate, because of certain questions that may have been asked.
Okay.
So he will be at the next meeting.
Okay. Any further consideration, any further discussion, pardon me?
Now, he's going to be Sue's going to be getting him acquainted with all the stuff she's doing right at this moment.
Yes.
Because he's going to be overseeing the sidewalk project and stuff and everything like that.
Well, yes, and we're hoping that the sidewalk project will be wrapped up by the time Ms. Sipperly retires in the end of July. So they'll be working on everything together.
Okay.
Okay. Any other items for discussion related to this motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Welcome aboard, Mr. Golden. All right. We've received a request. I've received a request from town staff and the mayor to table the amended contract name change item for tonight. So we'll be moving from item number 2 to item number 3, the ordinance to adopt fiscal year 2019 budget in our administrative business items.
Okay. This is just a formality. You approved the fiscal year 2019 budget at the last town meeting. Staff did not have the ordinance prepared at that time. So this is basically your formality to go ahead, because by state law, you have to approve the budget via an ordinance.
Okay, to that effect, are there any questions first for staff related to this item? Okay, so moving forward, is there a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2019 budget as per this ordinance series 2018, ordinance number 18-07?
I'll make a motion to adopt fiscal year 2019 budget per ordinance number 18-07.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. The motion's been made by Commissioner Ritz. It's been seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? The motion carries 5-0.
I believe Mr. Tabler gave everybody copies of the pages that were amended. They just get added to your book.
Okay, so we step forward. We have no items for our consent agenda. We now turn to our treasurer, Mr. Blanchard.
Yes,
The
sir.
Cash activity report, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Treasurer report, Town of Evansburg cash activity as of May 29, 2018, $5,223,159. Cash balance May 1st, 2018. Operating balance forward, $5,187,526. And as always, the top 10 check amounts, excuse me, the vendor names, the descriptions, etc.
Okay, any questions for staff related to the treasurer's report? Yes, sir.
I have something to add too.
Okay. You go first.
You'll see that there's two checks there for $5,456 for Alum B Roofing. That was a duplicate check. It had been voided before it was sent out. So there was only actually one payment for the replacing of the dugout roof. And that was a roof that was damaged in the windstorm.
Okay, great. Based on that sum, was the full roof replaced, or was it just a
Yes.
section?
No, the whole
Great.
thing, if
Okay.
anybody saw the pictures we posted, it blew over.
Okay,
What
terrific.
field was that?
That was,
I always get my fields mixed
yeah,
up.
the large senior field
Okay.
back behind Community Park.
Okay, terrific. Well, that's very curious that that happened. That's unfortunate, but necessary. Okay, do we need a motion to accept the budget as, to accept the
Did you?
treasurer's report? Oh, Mr. Sweeney, did you have a question? Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, sir.
Mine was for the accountant. Have you been keeping track? Did you keep good track of the electric since we switched over to everything to solar? Has the bills been going down, or do you have a better account because you got a full year and it's this year? How much difference it is from the year before?
We take a look at that each quarter, actually, when we sit down with the town manager and all the supervisors. We look at those type of things. This year, the electric expenses should be within the budget that we have in our current budget.
But it's staying steady, it's not going up or going down still?
It's
I have-
it's well, last year it would as we they seem to be steady. I mean, there's no
I know the electric is a big thing, so I was just curious on how it was going on for year to year, and
right.
if we can get I don't need it right now, but if we can get a report or something just on our desk or something given to us,
Well-
maybe once a year or something to see how the difference is from the year before, if there's any. There might not be any.
Do you
So a
still have your
quarterly comparison?
PowerPoint presentation that was handed to you? Because there was a slide about that.
Probably on the,
Yeah, it should be in there. If you need anything additional, just send me an email.
okay.
But it should give you an overview of it. And as we all know, the electric rates are, dependent on, or the electric costs are dependent on the rates that are set. So, but we haven't seen any significant increase or real decrease either.
And then last year too, there was a little bit with the one field, I believe.
Correct.
Being
Offline.
offline,
Right.
so to speak, yeah.
Right.
I just want to make, because a lot of people, ask me about the electric, is it going up, because we didn't cost us anything to put it in, but they want to know where, did
Probably
we
the
save
best
money?
the best way to look at it overall is to look at it from each fiscal year to each fiscal
Yeah,
year
that's what I
to
thought
see
too,
what our
too.
final
Yeah,
amounts end up being during the year, and they've always been within the budget, and
That's good.
they can always be compared, and we can always get that information to you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Sweeney, would you want a report on your desk
Probably figure- At the end of this year, maybe.
at the end of
Maybe
the year?
December, to see how, this 2018 went.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the in October when we have the audit, those numbers get finalized in their audit
Okay.
report. So as we get towards the end of the year, we monitor that against the budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Terrific. All right. So we turn from the treasurer's report now to the planning commission report.
We did have a meeting on May 29th. We reapproved the Amherstburg East Industrial Park 2 approval that had lapsed. It has now been approved by the planning commission. I see we have some things coming up. Brookfield Irishtown Road approval and potential commercial development. Look forward to that because we have been very busy, so it'd be nice to have something on the agenda. That's all we have.
Terrific. Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Commissioner Sweeney related to the planning commission report? No? Okay. We now turn to item L in our administrative business. Resolution related to employee benefit payout, presentation at meeting by town staff.
Mr.
Yeah, I'll turn
I'm
this.
sorry. Let me interrupt. Yes, sir. Mr. Ritz.
Per
Sorry.
our earlier discussion, would it be possible to move an item?
Sure. Okay.
Obviously with consent of the board.
All right, let me take a look for a second, though, as we are still in administrative business. I don't want to jump in and jump out.
This is your first
No,
agenda
this is our
item.
first agenda item. I'm sorry, Mr. Ritz. Thank you, sir. Okay, with that in mind, board members, would you give consideration to allowing Mr. Slaughter to make his presentation instead of waiting for us to
Yes.
work through other items preceding his presentation? So anybody have a concern related to that?
No.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very patient.
You now have your own agenda item, and it's yours
Good
now.
evening. My name is Wayne Slaughter. I live at 66 Robindale. I addressed the board last month, mayor and commissioners. This is a follow-up for me here tonight. I'm basically seeking approval to get started with the first volunteer community cleanup day. I have a public service announcement that I drafted that I want to put into the local Emmitsburg Journal paper. I have permission from the editor of that paper. They're planning on running it, and they're strongly supportive of this. So what I need to know is if this is a go with you, and if it is, I'll have this in the July edition. We're planning on having our very first cleanup on the 14th. I've been going on over the map and some details of where we might begin. At this point, we're sort of targeting the park area and the community around that, the area more or less west of Seton. And I'd like to start working with Maddie if I could, and going through some of the details on supplies or anything else that I might need. So if that's acceptable to you all, that's why I'm here tonight. The other thing that I'd like to do is submit a proposal to create a botanic garden and nature trail for the area that surrounds the baseball park, called a walking, jogging path, whatever. But I've spent some amount of time, and I have a very close friend of mine as a stakeholder in this who would like to see that area converted into a much much nicer area, which we believe can be done if the area is sort of cleared of this invasive vine that's currently killing a lot of the trees and shrubs there, and then the proper kind of planting of native plants and things that are more or less commensurate with the area, we think would make a big difference, and it would contribute to increasing wildlife in that area and bringing in the proper bird and insect populations that'll, sustain. So that's something that I would like to present to you just for consideration. I've got a proposal, and I'd like to leave them, and perhaps we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Great, okay. Definitely would be happy to see the proposal for the botanical garden piece. Backing up to the volunteer program.
Yes.
Are you seeking funds for the advertising?
No.
No, okay. Is it both local papers? Is it the county
Just the
paper?
Journal, that's all that I've worked with at
The
this point.
Journal,
Yeah.
okay. Could we also ask that it get included in the banner, and if you could contact the Frederick News Post?
Sure.
That might be a good thing, just to have a broader.
Sure,
net
if
thrown
you'd
out.
like, yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
Terrific. Now, regarding funding for that advertising.
We talked about that last week, I believe. Ms. Willits, we discussed it during the budget meeting. I believe there were funds available, just to assist, like with bags and that nature. I mean, like those, what do you call them? The
Trash pokers.
yeah, try
I guess trash pokers.
Or
to
grab
pick up
stick,
trash.
or?
grab stick.
More or
I don't know
less,
the
yeah.
Proper term, yeah.
This is very low tech, but yeah, that's right.
Things of that nature. That's what we were getting at last week during
Right.
the budget discussion.
Yeah, I mean, there's some basic money available for some of the supplies. And I agree with the advertising for the Catoctin banner. I don't think you want to spend the money for the Frederick News Post. You're not going to get what you're looking for out of the Frederick News Post, and it is quite costly to advertise in the Frederick News Post. Also, you're trying to generate local interest.
Right.
If we're looking at saving money and keeping this a volunteer program and reducing costs, that I think if you do both papers, what staff would need would be kind of like an itemized list or a cost associated with it that you're looking for the town to,
Subsidize. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
We don't need to see that then, do we, as a board? Would it be okay if Mr. Slaughter just presented to Ms. Shaw?
yes, that's fine. Everything should come through me, and then I'll
well
filter
as-
what's
yeah.
needed to
Staff.
Ms. Shaw.
Okay, that's
The
perfect.
approval of the funds has to come through the town manager. So you can send it to both of us. The dollar amount will be very little, so it does not have to come to the board as long as you approve the program.
sure,
I
sure,
can't
sure.
spend the funds without the approval of the program.
Correct. Commissioner Buckman.
And ideally, if we contact all the local churches and like Emmitsburg Events with Jenny Joy, with Emmitsburg Cares, that would be another way to reach the community. And Channel 99.
Commissioner Ritz, yes, sir.
My final question, and this is what Mr. Slaughter and I were discussing too, with the logistics of when everything's all said and done and we have trash bags full of stuff, trash. The logistics of what to do with them.
Our dumpsters in the parks are locked. We do have keys for them. If you rent the park, you get a key to the dumpster. So if we could facilitate a key for, I believe, the dumpster in Memorial Park and a dumpster in Community Park.
I was just tentatively planning on having the filled trash bags just left in key locations, and I was going to go by and pick them up myself. I just need a place to put them, that's all.
Right.
So if you can tell me where I need to put the filled trash bags, I'd be happy to do
Okay,
that.
and we can discuss that.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Any further questions from the board related to the program as presented?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Staff, any concerns, anything else we need to be concerned about, or any other staff input?
No,
Great.
no,
Okay.
as long as we know ahead of time, and then what the requests are, I think it's fine.
Great. So I'll outline the designated area, notify you, give you a list of the supplies that I think I might need, and
Mr. Slaughter, I'll ask you to.
I think that'll be it, correct?
So you'll be following up with staff, yes?
Correct. Okay.
Offline after the
Very
meeting.
good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Okay, so we need to take the vote.
just, oh, no, go ahead.
Mr.
Go with
Mayor?
your- No, go with your vote.
No? Okay. All right. So, is there a motion to accept the proposal related to the community cleanup?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal for the community cleanup.
Very good. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody against? The motion carries 5-0.
Now,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter.
Mr. Slaughter, may I?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Slaughter now is the president of the EBPA.
Oh, very good. Congratulations.
Yeah, good. Delighted. Looking forward to helping out.
Thank
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, we now turn to agenda item number,
One.
now to number 1. Yes, okay. It's taking me a little while to get there. I'm sorry, folks.
Which number was Wayne Slaughter's?
He was
His
number
was
6. He was on the last page.
Going back to
So we're on
page
page
22.
Yes, thank you. Page 22 of 64. Okay.
I'm going to turn most of this over to Mr. Table. If you recall, at the last meeting, we kind of gave you an overview of the benefits that are paid out to staff when they do leave in good standing. And I did clarify that it is in the employee handbook that you have to leave in good standing. You have to provide 2 weeks' notice to be eligible for your payout. I believe that was a question that was asked. So I will turn this over to Mr. Tabler. He's worked with Michelle Mills on some suggestions on how we can prepare for staff leaving. And this resolution was actually written by John Clapp, our town attorney.
Thank you. Just want to briefly go over a couple of the items that we discussed at the previous meeting last time. This ordinance is to prepare for any future folks leaving the town, be it known or unknown if it comes up. Again, each of our employees are given a home department. Some employees are home departments are the water fund and the sewer fund. Again, accounting wise, each year an entry is made to accrue the expense for any potential benefits accrual in those 2 funds, the General Fund 4 and 5. This is an allocation within General Fund 1 for employees that have home departments based in the departments that make up the general fund. For example, I'm Department 13 Financial. The reason this was put in, that this is being proposed is we don't want to run into a situation where a longtime employee that has a home department in General Fund 1 leaves the service of the town and we haven't had an opportunity to budget within that current fiscal year. When an employee leaves the town, they get their payout of their benefits accrual, and obviously that goes through payroll and expense actually hits the book in that current year, but we would have not budgeted for that ahead of time. So this is just simply a resolution to acknowledge the amount of accrual that we have on the books and for all the employees that are in General Fund 1. So this allocation would theoretically not only be for the current year, but for several years in the future for all the employees that are home department and general fund.
So the premise is if virtually everybody who had qualified for this had left at the same time, this would meet that need. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
And by explaining it that way, I hope I've not confused y'all too much.
I think we're okay. Are there any questions for staff, for Mr. Tabler specifically related to this? Mr. Sweeney?
This designation's within the net assets of the general fund, so we worked with Michelle at Delone and Stang just to make sure that this designation is put into our record so that people know about it, and have a clearer picture of what may be future liabilities within the general fund.
Yeah, my company had the same,
Took the same action?
yes, because, well, they pay everybody at the end of the year, no matter what. They pay everybody's accrued time at the end of the
In
year.
essence,
They
catch
used to-
up
yeah,
each year.
For everybody. So you start over fresh every year with your new time. So, that way they don't have the big backlog like we have,
Interesting.
to do that, so. and which I think is good because I talked to my owner of our company, and he said they had it the same way we had before, and they had a lot leave at one time, and they had to pay everybody off, and there was a large sum at one time.
That was hard to manage.
So it was hard to manage at one time. He said this is a good way to go. So
So what you're saying is there's a big party at New Year's at your house. Understand that? Okay.
No.
Sorry, sir. All right. Any other questions, comments related to this agenda item?
No, the only thing I had was the 2-week notice, but that's clarified, so thank you.
Okay, so that is
Yes.
right. That's there.
if they leave without notice, they don't get paid at all. Correct.
Correct.
We're good? Okay. All right. So with that in mind, is there a motion to accept the ordinance as presented? Sorry, the resolution as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as written.
Very good. Okay, is there any further, is there a second for the motion? Sorry.
I'll second that.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Blanchard. It's been seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion for this item? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0 with no one against or refraining.
Thank you. That's been weighing on staff's mind for a while, particularly Mr. Tabler, so thank you.
Okay. We now turn to agenda item number 2, fiscal year 2019 salary chart adoption for consideration.
Right, as part of the adoption or your approval of the fiscal year 19's budget, you approved the salaries, but we're also required to adopt the salary chart each fiscal year by ordinance, and it gets published online. So this is basically, if you look at the next 4 pages, it outlines your entire salary chart with the positions, the grade, and the steps for each position that we currently have or would have. So basically, all staff needs is to adopt the ordinance, which then adopts the salary chart, again, which is a part of the budget. This is one that should have been brought at the last meeting.
Are there any
I make a
questions?
motion to
Sorry.
adopt the ordinance amended the code, Emmitsburg, for the new salary chart for 2019.
Very good. The motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody against? Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Okay, we now turn to agenda item number 3. Okay, quick question though. Everybody, we're good to move to 3. Anybody want a brief recess, or are we okay to move forward?
Can we have a brief recess, please?
Sure, that would be fine. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute recess. Is that reasonable for everyone's needs? Okay, so is there a motion to recess for 5 minutes?
I'll make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Okay. Mr. Briggs?
No.
Mr. Briggs, do we want to turn the mics off for the moment? For 5 minutes, and then we'll return? Nope, not yet.
There
we go.
There you go.
Okay, we are returning from our recess. We re-adjourn. The time now is 9:50. We turn to agenda item number 3, Electric Vehicle Institute and Frederick County Agreement for consideration relating to electric vehicle chargers.
Okay.
Oh, you want to order off?
Oh, they're good.
Okay, okay. Everybody okay with the
Oh,
lighting
thank
as
you.
is?
Thank
I think so.
Okay.
The mayor and Ms. Shaw have been working with the Electric Vehicle Institute and Frederick County to have 4 electric vehicle charging stations installed at the rear parking lot of the Emmitsburg Community Center. So they would go, here's the dumpster and the generator, and we would have 4 charging stations at the rear left hand, if you're facing it, of the parking lot. They're being installed, purchased, all through a grant via the Electric Vehicle Institute. The installation, cost of the charging stations, conduit, etc., will be covered via a grant with the Electric Vehicle Institute and a new single-phase commercial on-property service via Potomac Edison. The only cost to the town will be the monthly electricity consumption, and the town plans to recoup any electrical costs through a payment system on the charging station. Each charging station allows for credit card payment for its use. For the installation of the charging stations, basically there needs to be 2 documents approved by the board. One is the Electric Vehicle Institute, or EVI, grant agreement, and the second is for the Frederick County lease addendum, because we currently have a lease with Frederick County for this building, which has been in place since, I have the date back further, 2002. Here we go. This is what I believe, is it Sykesville?
Slipping my mind.
Yeah, Sykesville. This is currently what the setup would look like. They have 2 spots.
Hyattsville.
So you have, who is it?
Hyattsville.
Hyattsville, okay. They have 2 charging stations right there. You have the signs that show that they're electrical vehicle stations. This is what they look like close up. I believe they charge, I think on the next page, this is kind of the specs of it. It takes about 4 to 5 hours for a complete charge. This is a level 2 charger. There's one level up that is level 3. Currently, a lot of municipalities are going with the 2s right now. With this agreement, we can upgrade at a later date if we see the need for it. Again, I said there's speakers, there's a camera, there's a credit card slot, which they support all the major credit cards. It's a pedestal installation. What'd I do? What happened?
Uh-oh.
That was it? Okay.
Call again.
Okay, so I'm going to jump to the EVI grant agreement first, which is on page 34. So basically, this is a grant agreement between the town of Emmitsburg and the Electric Vehicle Institute. Basically, the town of Emmitsburg has initiated efforts to promote electric vehicle adoption and use by its staff and members. The Electric Vehicle Institute is a Maryland-based electric vehicle supply equipment company that provides electric vehicle charging station development, installation, battery maintenance, fleet development and management, customized architecture, layout for EV facilities, and EV implementation and maintenance plans. The purpose of this grant is to establish a framework for EVI to provide electric vehicle charging infrastructure and service through the deployment of EVI Level 2 and potentially at a later date Level 3 electric vehicle charging stations on a no-cost turnkey basis to the town of Emmitsburg. It includes technical and labor support as well as 5 years of maintenance and repair of the stations. The installation of the project shall be funded solely by EVI, and the town of Emmitsburg shall not be billed anything by the Electric Vehicle Institute. The grant is for turnkey installation with 5 years of maintenance of 4 EVI Level 2 chargers located in the parking lot of 300A South Seaton Avenue. The terms are, again, for 5 years, and they does not take effect until the charging stations are installed and become fully operational. We can terminate the agreement. After 5 years, we can renew the agreement, we can upgrade, or we can terminate. And if we decide to terminate the agreement, EVI will come in and remove all of the equipment, all the signage and all of the charging equipment. So basically, there's no cost to the town to have these installed. There's no cost related to the installation of the electric through Potomac Edison. And then, so that's the electric vehicle grant. If you go to page 32, you have the addendum of the lease with Frederick County. And basically, the town entered into a lease agreement dated March 7th of 2002 with the Board of County Commissioners of Frederick County, by which the town, among other things, leased from the Board of County Commissioners the 3rd floor of the Emmitsburg Community Center for use by the town for its administrative offices. And if you jump down to number 1, the county is authorizing, per this lease addendum, the county's authorizing the town to install or have installed in the parking area of the Emmitsburg Community Center 1 or more electric vehicle charging stations to be installed in accordance with the agreement by and between the town and the Electric Vehicle Institute. The county shall not be responsible and shall not incur no liability for the costs and expenses, either indirect or direct. Basically, these, the electric for the town of Emmitsburg, and we pay our own, but the rest of the building is all metered through the board or through the county. So with this installation, basically this agreement is saying that all these charging stations are going to be metered separately through a transformer to 1 meter, and then it's going to be split out to your 4 charging stations. The town of Emmitsburg, as part of this agreement, agrees to pay for any additional electric costs associated with these charging stations, which they state in number 3. The town shall take such measures as are reasonably required to have a separate electrical meter installed for the purpose of separating metering the electric use and the operation of the charging stations.
Can I ask a question?
I do too.
Can we get a solar meter put on now?
No.
I was just gonna,
We had a meeting with the county and Potomac Edison, and the only way to make this work is to go through the transformer to a meter and then have it sent through conduit to the other stations.
Is it because it's at this location that cannot be done,
Because we
or just?
currently they're just tying into a current transformer that we already have.
Okay.
We can eventually, the way that it works, we can eventually add accounts to our solar fields. So this could be a count, if it generates enough kilowatt hours,
Right.
could be added to the solar field at a
Okay,
later
that's the
date,
next
depending
question.
on, the usage, to see if it is worth adding to the solar field.
Okay, do you want to present more, or do we want?
No, I'm done.
Further questions? Okay, go ahead.
you mentioned 5 years, 5 years. What happens after 5 years?
5 years, we can renew. 5 years, we can terminate. 5 years, we can
So-
upgrade.
We'd renew to them still maintaining it and still.
Correct. Be an additional 5 year, be an additional agreement that we would bring to the board.
Mr. Ritz, do you have a question?
Yeah, how much, the transformer, this looks like it's on the south side, that's the gym there, right?
The transformer is, see if I can,
Am I looking at
right
that right?
here.
Yeah, so that's the gym, right?
No, that's, down there is senior center.
Okay. So how much has to be tore up
And you can see that conduit's gonna come through here.
So it's not really too much
No,
tearing up of road
No.
and such. How, I only saw these things. I was out in California once, short time frame for work. Didn't even flew out, did my thing, and came back. But where I was, there were a lot of these stations. It seemed like every business almost had it. How long does it take for a vehicle on average to charge?
for the level 2, it takes about 4 hours, depending on the size of your vehicle, for a full charge. In speaking to representatives from the county and from EVI, there are not many electric charging stations in the northern end of the county. There are apps that you can go to find the nearest charging station. So this will also help put Emmitsburg on the map when you're looking at your app to see where I can charge my vehicle. This will show up.
Well, that makes me, I'm sorry, Mr. Ritz, go ahead.
Well, I was
And
just
Ms.
saying, if
Buckland,
it
I'm
takes
sorry.
4 hours, you
I'm
park
sorry. Public charging stations.
public. Okay, and then
Mr. Ritz,
There are
any
some
other questions?
privately owned ones.
no,
Okay, Ms. Buckland.
So is the idea that someone will leave their car there overnight? Is that why there's cameras? I mean, 4 hours is a long time. Too long to spend at Pizza Hut. Too long to spend at the carriage house. Too long. What's the idea? What's the standard practice
For
for people who need their car charged?
I don't know. I mean, our hopes is maybe they'll go into town and eat. They'll go to the library. They'll attend some events. Maybe they have family.
Mr. Blanchard.
I have a friend who drives a Tesla. Anyways, he usually doesn't go for the full charge. He usually finds these stations, he uses the app, he pulls in, basically for like 2 hours, he gets something to eat, comes back, and he leaves. So he usually goes for like a partial charge every time he does this. And he's got an app where he tells him where he needs to go around the DC metropolitan area.
I got you.
So he usually doesn't leave his car for like 4 hours at the station.
Is it
So-
okay for people to leave it there overnight?
Okay for what?
Yeah, that's
He wants to know
Leave it
if he leaves
overnight.
his car overnight.
we don't currently
He-
have a policy
yeah.
that says you can't be in the
I haven't
parking
seen
lot
sign
overnight. And
Okay.
it's
Oh, you might get someone comes in late at night.
So one thing I ran into with MML, and here's a couple questions kind of to consider. In the contract, I didn't see anything related to, if we do remove it, the repair to the parking lot to the standards of the landlord.
the actual, I believe the pedestals are installed in the grass. Is that correct? At the edge of the parking lot? Do you
Okay,
remember, Michelle?
so
Yeah.
that's a non-issue.
And,
Great. Okay.
and the one thing I didn't throw in here, both the contract, the agreement, and the lease addendum, and everything has been reviewed by John Clapp
Okay.
for language.
The other piece is, do we have to pay for highway signage to show that we have public EV charging stations?
We would
Like-
if we wanted to put them out there.
Okay, so, that's a means by which we drag people off the highway in a good way. The other piece is, it's a pretty isolated spot there. I mean, if I recall correctly from an MML session, one of their suggestions was if you could place it, you'd put it in a commercial area, or at least more proximal to a commercial area. So as opposed to putting it at the south end of the parking lot, the north end.
You're there again. You're at the close proximity of your transformer, and speaking in the meeting with Potomac Edison, this was the place that was recommended because of the proximity to the transformer, proximity to turning in off of Cedar Avenue.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm not
And
satisfied with that.
This,
And-
that
and-
that end of the parking lot is the least used.
Right.
So that you're not disrupting the other people that are parking at the other end that are coming in for
I
business.
think that's actually a good idea. Even though what you were presented at MML, just
I mean, I get the idea of tucking them out of the way, but I think that's just I mean,
you're looking at this.
well, let me finish. I don't find us beholden to Potomac Edison. I find us beholden to our community, and it strikes me that it's better at the north end of the parking lot because it's closer to our retail.
It's,
That's not
I
that
think
big
it's a
of
matter of
difference.
opinion. I mean, you've got the
I'd
same
rather see it
distance
on Main
pulling
Street,
in.
to tell you the truth.
I'd
I
rather
mean,
see it up by Jubilee.
well, that's it exactly. I mean, you put it by Jubilee, you're almost at the commercial heart, but we're still trying to re-steer folks back to the square. I don't want to take anything away from the square, the immediate square, but
But you gotta start somewhere.
yeah, well, how about putting it by the swimming pool? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's still a public lot. You're closer in proximity to everything. You're away from this business center,
We
so
don't
to
have a
speak.
transformer at the swimming pool, do we?
you're talking to you're right here. You're close proximity to 15. If somebody's jumping off of 15, their travel a mile down, less than a mile down South Seaton, can pull right in there. You're going to take them up to the pool. We can't do the Jubilee. That's not our property.
I know that, but I'm saying like
So
near
you're
to
limited as where the town can place charging stations. And one of the future items that the mayor and I have discussed, and I believe we've discussed it with you as the board, is the hopes with, we set money aside to buy a new town car, that in an effort to, continue our sustainability, that the town was going to purchase an electric vehicle as well, that town staff uses coming in and out of the building.
Well, if I were to say, if we were to do another one, then I would definitely want it closer to our commercial core than making them walk.
And that would be the pool.
Well, sure, right,
It's brand new blacktopped area. You need a blacktopped area, and you need a nice area.
Well, nobody can use the pool parking lot from May
That's right.
15th to September 15th while the pool's in session, so that limits your usage of your EVI. I mean, that's something that we can
I know,
discuss in the
but, okay.
future, obviously.
But-
I'm sure, if these are successful.
How much electricity does it use when it's down? Because that's what we're paying for, is that right? Like, I'm just wondering what that expense is.
You recall, Maddie?
I didn't. I think it was very minimal when I talked with them.
And I'm just wondering what the expense related to that. Don't get me wrong. I'm for this idea, and I think it's a very good idea. My concern is just location concerns me. I don't want to find we're walking into a minefield of expenses.
Well, no, I don't think you're walking into a minefield. If I recall correctly from the meeting, I think you're looking at a maximum of $60 a month, but don't quote me on that. That number's sticking out in my head for some reason.
So $720 a month.
Does Frederick have any?
Not a month.
No, $60
Oh,
total.
sorry, a year. Sorry,
Yeah.
annually.
Frederick doesn't have any electric stations?
Who?
Frederick City.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, do you guys have some?
Yeah, we're getting ready to put some in the parking decks.
Oh, in the parking decks?
I have
As far as, this is the first, we need to test the waters to see if it's something that's even used.
Yeah,
I think when you look at the town as a whole and the options that you have as far as public parking and accessibility to, and I understand what you're saying, Commissioner O'Donnell, but, proximity to 15, if I want to hop off 15 and charge my vehicle, I don't want to be driving through town trying to find my way to some parking lot. The community center it's right here. When you come into town, it's easily marked. You come right in off the first road. Here's your station. You stop for, however long, and then you're done.
And we're looking at four sites. Okay, so $2,880 per year for the electric bill based on the $60. When we're not quoting you on it, but just our ballpark figure.
It's $60 for all four.
For all four
That's
of them.
my
It's not
understanding.
$60
Correct.
per
Yeah.
unit.
No, for total.
$15.
Okay.
per month.
Per month, just for it to be standing there if it's not used.
Okay.
And again, don't quote me on that number. That number came up in a conversation, and I think that's what they were speaking of. It's something that we can ask.
Okay.
One of the reasons we really want to get an electric vehicle up for our staff. Our other one's ready to break down and.
The Silver Bullet?
What?
The Silver Bullet is going?
It's going down.
It'll be a
for the
dark day in
captain.
Emmitsburg when the Silver Bullet goes. Oh, my gosh.
And we have certain things here. There's the senior citizen and the library and restaurants, and we'll see how it goes. It puts us on the map. We got a location here. People, they can GPS it, and they come right into Emmitsburg. And
Does Frederick's get used a lot? Does it get a lot of use in Frederick? I was just wondering.
Mr. Wilson, welcome.
Yeah. Good to see you, Mr. Commissioner. Yes, it does get used, as the town manager mentioned, that there's an app, and so when people come to visit, we have we generate $1.4 million in,
There you go.
you know,
bingo.
revenue, you know, in
Talk to
tourism,
On tourism.
you know, every day. So we get a lot of visitors, and some come with, you know, electric cars, and we have them around the city, but we want more, and so that's why we're adding them to our parking deck. Now, the other issue that you need to consider, not only the length of time, you know, that a electric vehicle may spend in a parking lot, but if someone parks there illegally, okay, how do you deal with that?
That's the other side of it, right?
Right? So neither of those policies exist, but you might want to consider them. All right?
Can I ask a question? You mean illegally, like they're not an electric vehicle charger, or they?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Put something
And
aside.
that's why I understand what Commissioner O'Donnell is saying. I think initially, you know, is seeking this, adding this to the town might be better suited at that location, you know, just to get a feel for things. I don't think it. Yeah, it's not in the hub of everything, but then we also play up our sidewalks a lot too, you know, connectivity. So, yes, you have to walk a little, but they can get to downtown, because the sidewalks are there.
Well said.
Yeah, Glenn,
And again, I'm not against this. I just want to make sure that we're walking in with our eyes open to
Or it could be-
expenses we can incur.
It could be signed, electric car only, violators will be towed or fined.
Or both.
You know.
That's
or
usually
both.
what we see in parking
and
decks. I've seen
Mr.
those.
Blanchard, I'm
I
sorry.
just want to add two things to this. As an individual who has to come by here quite often because of signing checks and the weekends, etc., I almost never see anyone park back in that corner. I agree there needs to be some signage, but I almost never see anyone park by the recycling container location or anything back in that corner. So I'm coming through this parking lot multiple times. It's always empty. Second thing, as a proponent of this, with the library being there, it's a great educational place. People find more about it. Again, using the app, basically knowing that we have the electric car refueling center there. People are going to come through the library and find out more about it. The senior center, coming here basically for different activities in the evenings, for the basketball and different things with the kids.
Town meetings.
Town meetings, etc. So as more and more people find about it, you'd be surprised how many electric cars are actually out there. And my friend who drives the car, not only does he use his center, you're asking about refueling it, he usually plugs his car in his house every night. And that's how he gets a full charge. And then basically what he has is the app, and he knows basically I think he said he can go 300 miles on a charge. So what he does, he has the app, and he knows exactly where they are around the D.C. metropolitan area, and he plans his travels around these. So again, as a tourism input, basically trying to encourage people to stop at Emmitsburg. Again, coming up 15, the app says, oh, hey, guess what? There's one of these refueling centers in Emmitsburg. Well, let's pull in, get refueled, and, you know, get some food while we're here, etc. So it will encourage people basically to go to this area who are driving those vehicles. And as they become more prevalent, you know, you'll be generating some income from this. So, anyways,
Okay.
there's my 2 cents.
Okay, so we have two items in front of us. I would suggest we take them in sequence as presented, and therefore, I turn to agenda item 3. I'm trying to find the right language here. Okay, so I'm turning to page 32 of 64. We need a motion to accept the lease as presented. Is that accurate?
Right, the motion to accept the Frederick County lease addendum as
Okay.
presented.
Very good. Is there
I'll make a motion to accept the Frederick County lease addendum as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman and seconded electrically by Commissioner Blanchard.
Nice.
Are there any other questions related to this item? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? The motion carries 5-0. All right, we now turn to the second item related to this. I'm on page 34 of 64. The Electric Vehicle Institute Grant Agreement. Is there a motion to accept the grant agreement as presented?
I make a motion to accept the electrical vehicle institution grant agreement as presented.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? The motion carries 5-0. Great, thank you.